Hello and welcome, it's Adam from betterproposals.io here, and we are back with season 3 of Proposal Breakdown. Now in this episode we have My Creative Biz, which is a grant writing service. So if you need to get some sort of government grant or grant for something, this company would help you. So diving right in. Cover looks pretty cool. Image looks decent. It's not personalized towards the people that she's writing it to or the person that she's writing it to, so that would be an improvement there. And the logo looks weird because it's got the white background on it and it isn't transparent. So like with all these things, invert it, get the logo white with a nice transparent background. Diving into the proposal. So I want to try to split this up and just go after the design side of things first, and then we'll go over the content after I've done that. So the first thing is she's got a red and a purple in her logo, and the purple that she's used across the board in her header, which is a great idea to do this with the feature blocks at the top, that doesn't match the purple of her logo. It's only slightly off, but it's off enough to notice it. What looks like she's done here is actually chosen the closest purple possible in our predefined set of colors, but you've got a color picker there that allows you to choose the exact hexadecimal, that's the hash and then the 6 numbers on letters. You can just match things exactly. So if you've got a specific brand color, you can match all of these things exactly. So that's what you want to try and do here. Now she's used a footer. So she's got a feature block at the top and a feature block at the bottom with her details in it. Don't need to do this kind of stuff because your information is freely available. They can reply to the email. It's not a necessary thing here. You're not trying to recreate an old school Word document or an old letter or something like that. So try and avoid doing things that make it look like an old letter because it just dates it. You've got this really nice sort of modern platform if you are using Better Proposals, and then you're sort of bringing old school stuff back into it. It just sort of doesn't really jibe very well. The other thing I would say on the design side is there's absolutely no imagery in here other than one picture of her, and that's it. So there's nothing else to sort of like just give it a little bit of a lift and sort of making it a little bit more interesting. There's no sort of arty pictures other than on the cover. So adding some imagery in here, some of it sometimes looks a little bit pointless, especially if you're using things like Unsplash and stuff like that, because it's not about your business, it's not about anything else, but they're so nice. Everything looks nicer, and it brings an element of professionalism in to the proposal that otherwise just simply wouldn't be there. So just simply adding pictures in here would have really, really helped. So on the design side, that's more or less it. So let's go into some of the copy then. So her structure is actually fairly solid here. There's a couple of little bits missing, but her introduction is written very well for a website, but it's not written very well for an actual proposal. So she knows this person, I'm guessing, but she's written it like it's a website. So it's well written. Have you tried to apply for a grant or service or project and found it all too hard? Perfect. She's grabbing you, she's gripping you, she's pulling you in, and she's speaking to that problem, which is awesome. But she's writing it very, very general, not speaking to the actual person that or the lead or whatever it is. So it sort of goes on from there. Again, very well done. She's got bullet points. It's super easy to read, really, really good, but it's not personalized at all. Tiny little change there. You know, like even if she just added like from our conversation, you said you've tried to apply for these projects and you found it too hard, you know? So it doesn't take much. You can just, you know, make it personalized. She's got a bit of information about herself in there, which is quite cool. She said she's worked for a bunch of different companies and things like that. It's fine. It's sort of unnecessary, but it's okay because it's kind of just her. She's got a list of services, which is quite good because it sort of rounds things off. And then she's got this page called Client Responsibility. Now, I do think in principle, this page is a very, very good idea because it does let the client know in advance the kinds of things they're going to have to do. Now, my issue with it is the fact that what she's actually selling here is a service that takes the burden and this problem away from the person she's selling to. So this person is struggling to write a grant proposal or whatever it is to get this money or whatever the grant is. that's something that is obviously driving that person crazy. They've tried filling the form in, they've tried writing this stuff, and it's not going well. And that's where this person's expertise comes in. The problem is this client responsibility page looks longer than her services page. So there's about 8 bullet points on her services page of the things that she does, and there's 16 or so on the client responsibilities page. So just visually, that looks bad. It just doesn't look right. And also you're trying to take this problem away from them, not give them more stuff to do. So try and be a little bit sympathetic to the fact that of the situation that the other person's actually in. So at the bottom of this client responsibility page is a footnote here, which is both really good and completely awful at the same time. So she's got in here that the grant writing itself might only take a few days. Great. The gathering of support material may take weeks. It's best practice to allow 6 to 8 weeks. Great stuff. Really good information. She's very, very clear about that, and it's very definitive. It's broken down into weeks. Awesome. It should be its own page. It needs its own bit, and you need to butter it up a little bit and gently guide them through that process with some of the client responsibility information. So week 1, you're going to have to supply us these 2 things. Week 2, you're going to have to supply us these 2 things. So break it up a little bit, make it a bit more manageable, not just sort of like, right, you've got to give us all this stuff, and by the way, it's going to take 8 weeks. So just by mixing those 2 things together and restructuring it a little bit would make that leagues better. Okay, so FAQs in here, which is actually probably pretty good because there's probably a lot of unanswered questions around grant writing, I would imagine. It's probably not the sort of thing you do on a daily basis, so it's quite good to have that. Investment. This is straight up weird. There was actually a previous episode of Proposal Breakdown in this series where this exact same thing happened. So it's obviously more common than I thought it was, but don't have 2 hourly rates. Don't have hourly rates at all is my primary point. But if you do sell by the hour, don't sell by the hour and then change your price based on the work you're actually doing. So what's even more bizarre with this is that in this particular proposal, there's a mix of grant writing and support letters and quotes. Now, quotes and support letters are $80 an hour and grant writing is $60 an hour. I don't understand why this is the way it is. Just make it 70 and that's the end of it. I don't understand why that's the way it is. I mean, it's certainly not obvious from this. She's got some ongoing stuff in here, which is fine. So you can sort of pre-book for sort of significant blocks. If you've got a lot of grants, you can pre-book and I imagine get some sort of discount. She's said that it's negotiated. So I don't know. There's something that just seems inconsistent here. There's something that's inconsistent. They're unsure about their hourly rate. If you scroll down and you take out a long-term relationship, you can get a negotiated price. So straight away, there's 2 things there, 2 major things, which tell me that I'm not paying any of these prices. So it's just going to get you pushback where you pretty much didn't need any. $70 an hour, that's the end of it. Regardless of whether you want me long-term or not, doesn't matter. I'm $70 an hour. It's just going to clear up all confusion. So if you do have to quote an hourly rate, actually just stick to it. And then finally, I won't say there's no next steps. It's just that the next step is completely backwards. So in bright red here, which again is on brand, it says complete the grants planner for a free no obligation quote for your grant writing needs. What the hell? I've just gone through this whole proposal and now I've got to fill out a form to go presumably back to the beginning again. It's completely backwards. This form should be right at the very beginning, not at the beginning of the proposal, beginning of the process. And then this proposal should be the end point where you're saying, okay, cool, this is the actual price. Off we go. The whole thing's backwards. It's completely weird. And if it wasn't confusing enough until that point, this last bit just sends it over the edge. So, I mean, anybody would just get confused at this stage. So if you've got something like this in your proposal, you've got to clean it up. You've got to make sure that the end point of the proposal is getting them to actually sign something. So the next step should always be to sign the proposal and that's it. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't try and do anything else. Just get them to sign the damn thing and worry about everything else later. So if she does need information, she can always link to it on the thank you page or give it to them after they've signed the proposal. I hope that has helped you steer your proposal writing in the right direction, moving away from mistakes and hopefully towards some of the good things that have been mentioned in this episode of Proposal Breakdown. Thank you very much for watching and stay tuned for the next episode.